Well, good morning all, and it is a privilege for me to call this meeting of Huron County Council to order. I would like to first welcome all members of Huron County Council. We have a full house today. Welcome also to all of our staff, our senior management team that will provide us facts and information so we can make decisions in the best interest of the corporation of the County of Huron and our 61,000 residents. It's great to see so many members of the public in attendance this morning, and welcome to all and to the media. And a special welcome to James Sconiak, Chief Operating Officer and VP at Bruce Power, and Jessica Linthorne, President and CEO of Nuclear Innovation Institute. It is great to see you here this morning. I would like to comment at the outset that council meetings are available live through Zoom, and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. And you may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. I do have a few comments actually to make this morning, and the first would be I would invite all members of County Council and remind all members of County Council that we will be doing a ribbon cutting at Sanders Street today at 2 p.m. So if everyone could be in attendance of that, it's great to see that. There's a need in the town of Exeter, and Huron County has risen to that. So we invite everyone to be there for 2 p.m. today. I would like to also share with Huron County Council that past Warden Ginn and myself have done a performance review on our CAO that has been completed, and I am more than happy to communicate that all expectations have been exceeded. Our CEO suggested that they've been met, and it was not our opinion. It was our opinion that we are so fortunate to have CEO Megan work as our CAO in Huron County, and all of the expectations of her performance have been exceeded. With that, this will be my last meeting as chair of Huron County Council as your warden, and I would like to thank a number of people, and of course it always starts with family. And our son Curtis is involved in our business and is very, very capable. And with our grandchildren, Sam and Beth, and James and Clark, and especially my wife, Vanda. Thank you very much, Vanda, for all you have done, the sacrifices you have made, both personally yourself and for us and for our family, to offer me the opportunity to give back to Huron County. Thank you very much for that. I would also like to express my gratitude to Huron County Council. Without your support, I would not have been able to have had this privilege and opportunity. And so to each and every one, for your support of myself and the support of past Warden Ginn and past Warden McClellan, I will do the same for the next Warden of Huron County to offer my support in any way I can. Thank you very much to Huron County Council. I also want to extend a thanks to our 700 plus staff. They're reaching now close to 750 for the respect that you have shown me, the way you involved me in so many things. And it is mutual, the respect that I have for all of our staff. You included me in many events for comments and participation and offered me that opportunity to give back. So to all of our 700 plus staff, thank you very much. Then to our senior management team, CAO work has put together a tremendous group of talented individuals in your own areas of expertise. And you're an amazing team. You're an all-star team. And thank you very much to each and every one for the support that you've shown me and what you do to carry out and execute the what of Huron County Council. You are the how, and I'm tremendously indebted to you. Labitza, thank you for all your support. Your charming face, and I know I just scared you. Your charming face, Labitza, and all your help. And you learned that from Clerk Cronin. Clerk Cronin, thank you very much. You organize a tremendous meeting, and the execution could not be done without your assistance. And thank you very much for that, Clerk Cronin. Kate Puska, the executive assistant to Megan and myself. Kate does all the organizing for events, and it would have been totally impossible to attend as many functions as I have and to represent Huron County to the best of my ability without your organization of my life. So Kate, thank you very much for that I'm totally indebted to you. CAO work, Huron County is so fortunate to have you. Your leadership and your support of myself as warden, I will always be indebted to. You're the mama bear. You protected me even when I didn't know you were doing it or I didn't need it. And for that, Megan, thank you very much. With that, we do have the agenda that has been circulated, and there are 2 additions to that, and that lies under presentations of 5.1 and B. And with that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as amended. Councillor P. Heffer and Jim Goderich. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Does anyone have a declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof of any agenda item that we have today? Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Whereas I, Leah Noel, have a pecuniary interest with respect to item 11.2, the recommendation to award RFP 24-1001, CCTV inspection and GPS reporting for asset management process to BM Ross and Associates Limited. I therefore declare a pecuniary interest, and the general nature of my interest is that my daughter is employed by BM Ross.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Noel. Are there any other declarations of pecuniary interest that anyone would like to indicate at this time? And seeing none, we do have the minutes that have been circulated of the November 6th meeting, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the adoption of these minutes. And that would be Councillor Harding and Van Stone. Are there any questions on these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. As I indicated at the outset, it's an absolute privilege to welcome James Sconiak, who is the Chief Operating Officer and Executive VP of Bruce Power, to the podium at this time. Please, James.
Great. Thanks very much for having me this morning. It seems like we're doing this on a regular basis. It's really, really nice to see everybody, and congratulations on a great Warden's banquet, and congratulations to you, Mr. Warden, on your last day as Warden of Huron County. And again, on behalf of Bruce Power and all of our employees, thank you for all your tremendous leadership. I have 2 delegations today, and Susan said she doesn't worry about the timing of the agenda, so I could take as much time as I wanted. You're calling BS on that. Maybe I shouldn't say BS. This is televised. I didn't actually say it. Well, there you go. Anyway, on behalf of Bruce Power, one of the items that Warden McNeil, CAO Warwick, and I met on, actually I think it was last spring, was really around the whole issue of affordable housing. It's an issue in communities not only across Huron, Bruce, and Grey, but frankly all across Canada. And we know that you could go to any community in Canada, and likely the 2 top issues that most people would raise is affordability and the cost of living, and housing. They're fairly kind of consistent issues across the board. But I think what's really most important is what are the things that we're actually doing and making happen to address those issues. There's no magic bullet. And back in the spring, both the CAO and Warden spent a lot of time and walked me and the team through all of the great work that you're doing on the Gibbon Street development. On my way over this morning, I was a little bit earlier, so I drove over and took a look at what was going on. And what I always say is that it's great when you can go from a meeting where people talk about something and then you actually go out into the field and see something happening. That's always my test at Bruce Power. Talk about things all you want in meetings, but I want to go out in the field and actually see if something is happening. And I can tell you there was a full team of men and women working on this amazing redevelopment today, and it's a very impressive development. So firstly, I want to recognize just the leadership of Huron County. This is not only going to be an important asset for Huron County, but I think is a really good model for other counties and rural communities with the sort of wraparound services. And I think you've not only have delivered and are delivering something here of importance to your local residents, but I think it's going to be a really good model that I'm hoping we can build on across the area. So to cut to the chase, when we had the meeting back in the spring, was really impressed with the project, and I said to the warden, "So how can we help?" And he said, "Well, since you asked the question, I'll give you an answer. We're trying to raise $1 million. So I'm here today to confirm $1 million donation from Bruce Power for the as a contribution towards the housing project. And thank you very much." Now, it's his last day, not mine. So, but one of the things, a couple things that just this is one of my favorite parts of the job is announcing donations, as you can probably gather. But a couple things I just want to say to just leave this with you is the first thing is this doesn't happen without your leadership. That's item number one. We're proud to be a part of this. And what I also say, living in a small rural community, we have people that contribute to all sorts of causes, hospitals, Lions Club events, affordable housing, and every single person in a small community does what they can. Every organization does what we can. And sometimes organization like Bruce Power, we have the ability to make a larger donation. But really what makes these community fundraising events across the board successful is everybody does what they can. Whether that's somebody that has the means to donate, they donate, $5 to a bake sale, or a business that donates $1,000 to something, whether it's somebody volunteering their time, or whether it's really spreading the message. So it's all part of being a part of a small community. And so, I really want to thank you for your leadership today. And the check is literally in the mail. It literally is. So thank you very much. Is it okay for me to go on to the next delegation? A quick photo? Okay. Sure, happy to. Hit the green button. And that was less than 10 minutes, by the way.
Well, thank you very much for that, James, and to Bruce Power. I made a commitment to Huron County Council that I would do my best to raise funds for this project. And Bruce Power saw both the need and the benefit. They're a great employer, and they also saw the need for those in our communities that are less privileged. So James, thank you very much on behalf of myself as warden, all of Huron County Council, and all of our staff for your commitment to make society better for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Please continue with 5.1B.
That's great. So Jess Linthorne and I are pleased to present on this next delegation. So Jess is the president and CEO of the Nuclear Innovation Institute, but Jess and I also have the privilege of co-chairing an organization called the Southwestern Ontario Isotope Council. And I'm going to start by providing a bit of background on the council, and then Jess has a presentation to make on behalf of the council. So the four co-chairs of the Southwest Isotope Council Coalition consist of Jess and myself, Councillor Solomon from the Nawash unceded First Nation, and Ian Boddy, who's the mayor of Owen Sound. And this was an organization that we put together in October of 2023. And really what it was a recognition of the fact that here in the Grey Bruce Huron County region, primarily related to the Bruce Power site, that we had a capability that nobody else in the world has around the production of life-saving medical isotopes. So these are isotopes used to sterilize medical equipment. 40% of the medical equipment that any of us as patients would use when we go into a hospital are sterilized using cobalt-60. And so our reactors here in Ontario, Bruce and Pickering, provide a unique capability to make this cobalt. But as the warden noted in his banquet, for 2 years now, we've been the first commercial power reactor in the world to make short-lived medical isotopes. And short-lived medical isotopes are really the modern form of energy to diagnose and treat cancer. And you can only produce them in nuclear reactors. You can't produce them through any other means. So over the last number of years, we've created this capability here in Grey Bruce and Huron at Bruce Power, but it is globally recognized. It is a game changer for radiopharmaceuticals around the world. So we are now making isotopes that treat brain tumors, breast cancer, neuroendocrine tumors, prostate cancer, and as we expand, it will go on to many other areas. I can tell you next week, I will be visiting Munich, Germany to meet with our partners in processing and also presenting at the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna. Sounds like a tough week, eh? Good schnitzel in Germany, by the way. But this it goes to show you the international nature of this. Why is this important to the Southwest Isotope Coalition? Is because our aspiration is to have local residents have access to the best treatments. And so goal one of this coalition is to do what we can working with our hospital systems to advocate for more cancer diagnostics and services closer to home, and leverage, frankly, this position that we have in isotopes as a way to get higher up on the agenda. And we've had real success with that. But another focus is to bring more of that processing, more of the value stream associated with this to Canada, and then to Ontario, and then ideally to rural Ontario. As Canadians, we are really good at producing a lot of raw materials, a lot of base products, but oftentimes we export those base products, and a lot of the other, which are additional good paying jobs, good opportunities, go to other countries and other areas. Doesn't mean we can be isolationist here, but we want to bring more of that home. And a couple of weeks ago, the warden was there in Tiverton. We announced with Minister Lecce an investment to move what we call decanting process to this region. We're still finalizing where the specific location of that facility, but we're moving that here into our region, which will mean higher yield of medical isotopes for export and more of that processing here. So tremendous support. We've had significant engagement from not only the counties in the region. When we say Southwestern Ontario, that spans down to Hamilton, to Windsor. So we're really talking a large region. And with this being the warden's last meeting, I'll pass it over to Jess to make a first ever presentation on behalf of SOIC on a special award we have today.
Great, thank you. Thanks, James. Thank you, Mr. Warden, for inviting us in today and allowing us to come in and share a little bit about the Isotope Coalition. So it is my absolute privilege to introduce the inaugural Community Visionary Award. And today, Warden, we'd like to give you this award for your leadership, for your steadfast support, for the relationships you continue to build on behalf of Huron County, and for the work you've done with the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. The Southwestern Ontario Isotope Coalition is proud to have you involved and engaged in the work we do. Thank you for helping us shape tomorrow.
You're going to want to come to me.
I will.
Thanks. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you very much to James and Jess for this. It has been a privilege for me on behalf of Huron County to be involved with you. And what you're doing with the isotopes is just another example of how you're helping society, not only in Ontario, Southwestern Ontario, Canada, the world. And that vision you have is so appreciated by those that find themselves in the need of these treatments. So thank you very much. It's an honor to be associated with you. Thank you. With that, I'll now move on to number 6, which would be the councillor comments. Do any members of council have any comments that they would care to make at this time? And I'll go first to Past Warden McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I really wish I could attend the ribbon cutting this afternoon. I think this is a very important piece of inventory that's being added to Huron County. Unfortunately, it was kind of short notice that it was happening today, and I can't make it. I have another schedule. On the lighter side, Mr. Warden, for the next couple of years, I was curious if staff and council could kind of schedule the times they arrive, because if there's a lineup at the door, it's going to be really tough to slide in at 9 o'clock in the morning, because like that process can take a while when there's 4 or 5 people standing there. So if you could do something about that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Duly noted, and I am really appreciative of your comments of time management, and I'm sure you'll take that into consideration in your future visits here to Huron County Council. Thank you. Are there any additional comments? Councillor Bazinet, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. I'll try not to be as long-winded as the last council meeting. I've had a few chirps from council members that I was very long-winded at our last council meeting. So I just want to provide an update. We did hand out some awards from the Accessibility Advisory Committee that you were at as well, as a council member. And I think it's important for County Council to know who the award winners were. These are annual awards that are handed out by the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And I would like to, make the announcements that in the business category, Eddington's of Exeter and the Cannabis Guys were this year's award winners for the business category. In the public sector category, the Township of North Huron, Council Chambers. And the really nice thing about that was the adjustable podium that was added. I think that was incredible to see. And now I'm taking that back to my council and seeing if we can do something like that. So what you've done in North Huron is truly remarkable. And it's something quite simple, really. So I want to say congratulations to you. Municipality of South Huron with their recreation center. Amazing. They just hosted International Silver Stick, and I've heard nothing but good things. I've seen lots of things on social media regarding it. So I want to congratulate George and Jim as well from South Huron on that award. And the Listowel Wingham and Area Family Health Team was also received the award in the public sector. The Sandra Thompson Memorial Accessibility Champion Award of 2024 recipient was Bruce Humans from JPM Architecture Inc. And I didn't know Bruce that well until the meeting, and incredible champion when it comes to accessibility and architecture. So congratulations to Bruce. And I just want to talk briefly about the importance of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Things in our life can happen quickly. And, I look at the members that are on the Accessible Advisory Committee and the passion that they have and the voice. We've provided these people a voice to share their concerns. And Huron County is the champion and the leader of accessibility. I've had a wonderful time being chair of this committee, and I want to thank Warden McNeil for allowing me that opportunity and nominating me as chair and having the confidence in me. And it has really opened my eyes and I now have that accessible lens when I'm going to businesses or restaurants or facilities like a recreation center or even a public washroom, and having a better understanding what our people are dealing with and the struggles that they deal with. We can get up every morning, the alarm goes off, we have a shower, and we head to work. We don't have any concerns. We don't have to plan our day around accessibility. A lot of people do. And like I said, things can happen quickly in life. And a good example of that is what I would consider the all-time champion is Julie Sawchuk. One day she woke up, she got on her bicycle and went for a bike ride. Moments later, she's paralyzed in a wheelchair. And for some people that have dealt with that, they can give up on life. And they, can struggle through it. But what Julie has done is she's done the exact opposite. She has become a champion. She has become a voice and a leader, and very inspiring person to have conversations with. And I can't commend her enough for that. I want to thank the staff as well, Susan Cronin, Sahil Kassal. I can never pronounce his last name right, so I try not to ever say it. But hopefully if I said it wrong, I apologize. But Sahil's been at it, and he's done a lot of remarkable work in the past few months of creating checklists, for example, for municipalities in regards to when we're hosting events, what they need to do. And I think that's a step forward in the right direction. And I know we have a nomination process with some committees coming up, and I think maybe the deadline is now. I have no idea. But if there's ever consideration for any county council members to sit on a committee that they've never been on, I would highly recommend the Accessibility Advisory Committee. It really will open your eyes. It'll inspire you as well. If you're looking to be inspired, that's the committee you want to be on. So I want to thank the warden once again for nominating me as chair of that committee.
Thank you very much for those comments, Councillor Basnet, and you have done a tremendous job as the chair of that committee. I always want to emphasize we should not take things for granted in life. And one of the things is how Huron County is a leader in so many fronts, and accessibility is one of them. And other counties look to us for what we're doing and how to emulate it. And it is very important. We're always appreciative of the leadership position we have. It does not come by chance. We have a CAO that is very, very talented with her staff and with Susan's direction. Accessibility is so important to all of us. Thank you for those comments. Additional comments from county councillors? Past Warden again, please.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. And of all the committees I've sat on, I think that's the one that's most impactful on to me. I think every county councillor should sit on that committee at some point in time. And a couple of things that you learn, like up to 20% of the people are going to have some form of disability, and businesses cannot exclude 20% of their customers. And we put together a program in Central Huron as well to make shopping easier for people with disabilities. It's been copied by the city of Newmarket, and it is also being put in place in Mississauga. So when you say it's being copied elsewhere, it is being copied elsewhere. And not only is it the right thing to do, but it's economically very important for businesses to provide those services. So again, I would also echo Councillor Bazinet's statement that people should sit on that committee, and I wouldn't even hesitate to see a few more members of county council sit on that committee. I don't know if we want to look at the terms of reference, but it would be a suggestion. But it's really eye-opening for sure, impactful.
Thank you very much for those very accurate comments. Any additional comments of any other members of county council? With not, thank you very much for that. We do have a consent agenda that encompasses 7.1 to 7.5. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull? And I'll go to past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't really need to pull. I just had a curiosity, and it was about Dana's Holmes report. I'm just curious. It talks about the fact that we had 4 people leave, 4 people come in, but we're only at 95% capacity. And I'm not sure if that is just a timing thing because, a couple of people left right near the end of the month, or is it that we need to leave spaces open for emergency situations? I was just curious why, because I've read that before where we're not at 100%, but we do have people coming in and out. And I was just curious what the reason was.
Okay, thank you for the question. Dana, are you prepared to respond to that?
Through you. Just for clarification, are you referring to the apartment portion or the long-term care portion? Because the apartment portion, we are doing some upgrades. So some new flooring, some of the flooring was there for like needed to be replaced. So there would be a time lapse for that. But for the long-term care portion, it is just timing. So when they have left until the admission part. So we are, there's a vacancy report that's put in same day, and it goes right to the LIN for us to fill those beds. So they're working on it right away. And then the list, just going through that list sometimes takes a little bit of time because the data that we get related to those admissions needs updated in the moment. And then sometimes the person's not appropriate to come in at that point in time.
You're happy with that? Perfect. And thank you very much for that, Dana. Anything else on the consent agenda? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to approve with the actions as noted. Councillor Bazinet and Councillor Noel. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Under Social and Property Services, in advance of introducing the topic, it is a pleasure for me to introduce Shannon Daniels, who is the new Housing Services Supervisor. Welcome, Shannon. And also to welcome Kelly Harrison, who is the Housing Stability Worker. Welcome to the staff of the Corporation of the County of Huron, and we look forward to your contribution in a very challenging portfolio. With that, the Huron Turning Point residents, Jamie Voskamp, is here to respond to any questions that Council may have on this agenda item. Do we have any questions for Jamie? And if not, thank you very much. A thorough report, Jamie, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report titled Huron Turning Point Resident Service Agreement Amendment with the appropriate bylaw being drafted and authorized by the Warden and the Clerk. Councillor Finch and Alvin McClellan, all in favor of this motion. And that is carried. I thank you very much. The next topic is the Huron County Corporation bad debt write-off. It's the cost of doing business. And again, Jamie is here to respond to any questions that Council may have on this. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just one quick one. Is this exceptional budgeting, or how does this work out that we only did what we needed to cover the 40,000 because we were extremely close to what was budgeted for the year?
Thanks for the question. Jamie, please.
Yes, through you, Warden. I am very grateful to say that, yes, we snuck in about $1,000 under budget. We noticed that the advocacy that County Council gave to the LTB last year just to try and speed up the speed in which cases are being heard, I feel has been a huge impact on why we were able to sneak in under budget this year. We have noticed that our tenancies are becoming more complex. But we do have a housing stability worker that we have that works with our tenants to try and get in before things get bad. So we're seeing that, an increase, or sorry, the opportunity that cases at the landlord and tenant board are being heard quicker has provided us the opportunity to stay within our budget. Yes.
Good to that. Perfect. Thank you very much. Any additional questions or comments for Jamie? And if not, thank you very much, Jamie. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report. County of Huron Corporation bad debt write-off and recommended write-off of this. P. Heffer and Councillor Finch, all in favor of this motion. And that is carried, and thanks again, Jamie. Moving on to number 3, the maintenance agreement between Central Huron and the County of Huron for Fire Protection System. Jeff Kerslake is joining us virtually to respond to any questions that any members of council may have on this. Do we have any questions or comments for Jeff? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report titled Maintenance Agreement between Central Huron and the County of Huron for Fire Protection Services, and the appropriate bylaw be drafted and signed by the Warden and the Clerk. Councillor Bazinet and Becker, all in favor of this motion. And that is carried. Thank you very much. And Jeff is also here to respond to any questions of number 4, which is the Huron County Courthouse lease extension and amending agreement with the Ministry of the Attorney General. Do we have any questions or comments of Jeff on this? And seeing none, again, I will entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report with the appropriate bylaw being drafted and signed by the Warden and the Clerk. Jay Heffer and Jay Dietrich, all in favor of this motion. And that again is carried. Thanks very much, Jeff, for being with us this morning. Under number 5, Cheryl Patience is here to present to us today on the National Child Day. I believe that Cheryl is joining us virtually. Welcome, Cheryl, and we look forward to your presentation to us.
Thank you, Warner McNeil. Today is National Child Day in Canada, and it's about celebrating children as capable and competent and recognizing their rights as citizens. The United Nations adopted the Convention of Rights of the Child on November 20th back in 1989, and Canada joined in 1991, making a commitment to ensure that all children are treated with dignity, respect, and have the opportunity to reach their full potential. Children's Services continues to promote the Huron and Perth Children's Charter of Rights, and that was presented to Council last year, along with resources to assist families with understanding the use of the Charter. Locally, we're excited to announce that the Avalon-Maitland District School Board communication team has successfully designed and formatted the electronic campaign for the Huron and Perth Charter of Rights of Children and Youth, and this campaign officially launches today as well. Each of the 12 rights will be highlighted and released on the 20th of each month, starting November 2024 through to November 2025. To assist in celebrating, we were handing out cookies to you. You may see a blue ribbon cookie, and you may see blue ribbons locally at child cares or child and family centers in Huron County today. And we thank you for helping us recognize National and World Child Day.
Thank you very much for that presentation to us. And we make decisions, I've often said it, not only for today, it's for future generations, and that's our youth. Do we have any questions or comments for Cheryl? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report titled National Child Day as presented for information. Councillor Bazinet and Anderson. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. And again, thanks very much, Cheryl, for joining us this morning. We do not have anything under Homes for the Aged or Emergency Services today, so we will move on to number 11, and that is Public Works. And it is a pleasure to welcome Andrew Maver this morning to respond to any questions on the Boundary Bridge 11. Do we have any questions or comments on this? And seeing none, again, I will entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report, that it be transferred to Ashfield, Coburn, Wawanosh with the appropriate bylaw being authorized and signed by the warden and the clerk. Councillor Van Stone and past warden Ginn. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. I thank you. Andrew now will be able to respond to any questions about the asset management process. Do we have any questions or comments for Andrew on item number 2? And if I see none, I'll entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report titled Asset Management Process and award the contract to BM Ross for the tendered price of $366,097, including net applicable taxes and contingencies, and the appropriate bylaw be authorized and signed by the warden and the clerk. Past warden Ginn and P. Heffer. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. I thank you. Number 3 is the supply and delivery of alternative non-liquid de-icing material. And again, Andrew is here to respond to any questions the council may have on this. Now I see none, I'll entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report titled Supply and Delivery of Alternative Non-Liquid De-icing Material, and that the County of Huron award the tender to Compass Minerals Canada Corp. for the tendered price of $369,587, with the appropriate bylaw being signed by the warden and the clerk. And that is Jay Heffer and Councillor Finch. All in favor of this motion? And again, that is carried. Thank you. And Andrew is here to respond to any questions on the Huron East Greater Lease to Own Agreement under number 4. Do we have any questions or comments? I'm going to go to Councillor Harding and then Klopp in that order, please.
I'm just a little concerned about this agreement with our lower tier municipality on this asset. Being the reeve of one of the smallest municipalities in Huron County, and having probably the most gravel roads and probably the most graders too. We have 4, and maybe we're too sentimental. Maybe we should only have 3, but we have a champion grader still in service in our municipality that it just looks like brand new. It just looks like it stepped off the assembly line. But one thing I have learned in my tenure on council is these graders take some maintenance and repair. And I know we're tough on them in Howick because we're fighting snowbanks besides the work they do in grading and stuff on the roads. I'm just afraid of how this grader, I'm not sure how old it is, the Huron County grader that's being leased out. If there's repairs, who's going to make them? Who's going to take a sample of the oil out of the transmission to make sure there's no grindings or filings in it, to make sure that there's nothing going to cause trouble with that part of the grader. It's just not an easy thing to diagnose the problems you'll have over the years. And that's kind of why we have an extra grader. So we're able to fulfill the work we have to. So I just don't know whether anybody can give me, I just want to warn council that there might be some repercussions here. I'm afraid of this deal. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, thank you for your question and comment. Andrew, would you be prepared to address that, please?
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden. So within the lease agreement, it does suggest that the lower tier is responsible for all maintenance and repairs to the grader during the lease term.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think past Warden McClellan would care to make a comment at this time on behalf of Huron East, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I do appreciate the concerns. I'm going to say that at Huron East, we certainly have a lot of faith in our public works staff. They met with the equipment operators at the county. They were able to view the maintenance records and do any checks on the equipment that they wanted to. We certainly understand anytime you buy a used piece of equipment, there's always a little bit of risk involved, but we were comfortable with what the county felt and the agreement of what the trade-in value would have been worth at the April date when the deal will be finalized. So we're pretty comfortable with it, and we appreciate the cooperation of the county working with us on getting the used graders. So we're content. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you, and the comments. Yeah, I would hope. I want to premise this that I would hope if there's ever graders and we can work with lower tier, upper tiers, that we try to. I don't get. If we lose a few dollars, it's going to stay in-house. So that's not maybe the issue. But when I started reading this, I said, why don't we just, what was the option of just not saying, here, you're buying it, here's the 40,000, and not get all complicated? Just wondering how come that we have to go this far.
Okay, so I will turn it over to Andrew to respond to that, please.
Thanks. And through the warden, so we do have a grader that has been recently purchased. And we don't expect delivery until right when the end of this lease will expire. So that's the reason for the lease to own.
And I appreciated that part, but I guess the only line in there is if the county needs it again, so we're leasing it. But and how did you arrive at the 40,000? Again, it's not. I'm not worried so much about if it should be 50 or whatever. But at the 40,000, the way I read this, it is an option for the municipality to buy it. Clearly, they're going to be into this if I'm reading it right, 25,000 into it. But how did we arrive at the 40?
Thank you for the question, Andrew, please.
Yeah, and through the warden. So this was a look at market values for graders that have been sold recently. So this is a best estimate, and at the end of the lease, there'll be another look taken at the actual value of the grader, and we'll come up with a value that's mutually agreed upon.
Thank you for that. Follow up, Councillor Klopp.
Yeah, that's the part that it intrigues me, because what if it goes way up? I guess then they'll walk away. They're out 25, but they won't be out. They'll do the math. But at the same time, if it drops drastically, I guess how we say it to the rest of the municipalities is that, well, we got 25,000 in hand, and they'll sell the grader and get what we get with it. So from a business point of view, as long as everybody's treated the same, I guess that's more or less why I was asking how this process is. That's great. But I just want to be clear that that's noted, that maybe we will get it back. But again, I understand the process here and I can live with it.
Perfect. Thanks for the comment. Councillor Klopp, Past Warden McClellan, please.
Yeah, just so everybody's aware, the county didn't come to Huron County. Huron didn't come to Huron East. Huron East was in need of updating one of our graders. It was our staff that were aware of the fact that the county was buying a new one. So we went to them to ask for it. There was no favoritism one way or the other. It was just an investigation, and we think we worked out a reasonable deal. And I got to, again, give credit to our staff for finding this avenue. We're certainly a lot more comfortable buying a used grader from Huron County, where we know the history and know the people that worked on it and everything else, rather than buying one from someplace else across the province. So we're just very comfortable with the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions or comments, Councillor Klopp?
I'm not sure. Did you get a mover? I'll move it if it's.
I would like that. Moved by Councillor Klopp, seconded by Councillor Finch, that the Council of the County of Huron approve the Huron East Greater Lease to Own Agreement and the appropriate bylaw be drafted, signed by the Warden and the Clerk. Motion has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? I like your enthusiasm, Councillor Heffer. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Under Economic Development, the status of public transit in Huron County, it is a pleasure to welcome Chris Watson to respond to any questions that Council may have on this topic. Do we have any questions or comments of Chris? And if I see none, I will entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report titled Public Transit in Huron County as presented for information. Councillor Anderson and Past Warden Ginn. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much, Chris, for being here to respond to any questions that may have come up. Under number 2, the Investment Attraction and Clean Energy Update. Again, our Director of Economic Development, Vicki Loss, is here to respond to any questions that Council may have on this. Are there any questions or comments? And if I see none, I'll entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report titled Investment Attraction and Clean Energy Update as presented for information. And that is Jay Heffer and Councillor Noel. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Under number 13, which is Administration for Policies and Other Issues, the approval for early 2025 procurement. Our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, Michael Bloomhagen, is here to respond to any questions that Council may have. Any questions or comments? And again, seeing none, I will entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report titled Approval for Early 2025 Procurement, dated today and presented for information, and that we approve the Public Works, Emergency Services, Home for the Aged, IT, and Social and Property Services be authorized to procure up to 80% on pre-budget approval. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. And thank you very much, Mike. Did I not? Maybe we should have a mover and a seconder. Jay Dietrich, you'd be good with that. And a seconder for this would be P. Heffer. Again, moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. How's that? Oh, I did that just to see if you're paying attention, clerk.
In 4 years.
No worries.
Wow.
So moving on, we will, Mike Bloomhagen is again here to respond to any questions on capital and operating projects deferral to 2025. Councillor Harding, please.
I haven't asked this question in advance, so if there's no answer, why, that's fine. I'm still concerned about this $6 million project we have going in the north part of the county here, and where it fits into all this money that we have in reserves for things that are spoken for but not done. Like, is it available to tell us how much of the $6 million we've give this company already? And was there any deadline on this project, building this shed or works building? Where are we in that?
Okay, thanks for the question. Mike, are you prepared to respond to any comments on this?
I can give an initial response to this. So actual expenditures to date has been $4 million. So that was probably as of a couple of weeks ago in terms of our payment notices and whatnot that have come in. So just a hair over $4 million on that project with a budget of 6.3. I believe the expectation is probably March completion on that for this project. So it's well underway for completion. In terms of the financing, if you recall, I was going to speak with Infrastructure Ontario on this one, and I'll have a future report probably coming in December on it, just in terms of the overall financing strategy for this. Right now, we're just self-funding from our reserves. And then we've got the option of entering into that debenture closer to completion or at a later date after that. So right now it's just being self-funded from our reserves. And that will be the decision that we can make in the next couple of months if we just choose to fund it from reserves and enter into debenture later on when rates are more favorable. And we can, there's some timing there where we can make that future decision. I believe we have, it's up to 5 years after a completed project where we can actually enter into that debenture. So there's some time to think about it. But I'll be providing a more wholesome report on that just for council's consideration. But that's essentially where we're at. So well underway, a little over 4 million self-funded to date. So.
Okay, does that answer your question, Councillor Harding, or follow up, please?
So I was told at one point that we would be renting a building to house our snow plows that I think they're not really ours, but they're ones we have people contracted to do that. Did we were we able to secure a facility to put these plows in, and where's that money come from? Where does it fit into the?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I'll turn this over to staff to answer and respond to, please.
Through the warden, so we're able to utilize existing facilities. So there'll be one of the plows will be housed in Roxeter, and the other two plows will be in the newer building that was built recently in Wingham. So we're able to accommodate them in-house.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Andrew. A follow-up, Councillor Harding?
Where's the money come from to pay that? Like, I'm sure we're renting this, so like, does that come out of the capital part of this, or is it operating for the public works, or?
Did you say it was an existing facility, Andrew?
Yeah, through the warden, that's an existing county facility. So the existing salt shed at that Wingham site where they're building the new facility with the bays, we're able to store two of the plows in there.
Sorry, I didn't understand that, my last question, so thanks for your response.
Perfect. Thanks very much for that. Councillor Klopp, question or comment, please?
Yeah, yes. In our next report, we talk about year-to-date surpluses and things. And if I'm reading this report, how many, there seems to be like 2 million or whatever, because you add all these numbers up. But then how does that square with the with our next topic, which says capital expenditures and reserves, and we're estimating that the surplus will be estimated capital surplus will be approximately 700,000. And yet when I'm reading these numbers, it looks like it adds up to in excess of a few million. Help me out. I guess every year I'm learning on this capital and stuff, but.
Okay, so we're on item number 2, and we'll address item number 2. Do you have
I would assume that the other would have been some of the summary of it, and that's what I need to explain to me.
Yeah, through yourself, Warden. So the surplus that would have been included in the subsequent report, that's on completed jobs. Those are jobs that are done. They've been finalized. These are jobs that are not, they're still in progress, or they haven't been started yet. They were approved as part of our 2024, and we're just pushing them forward into 2025. So I haven't included that as part of the surplus calculations. So.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you for that. So then the 8.4, then that sort of included everything then, because that was sort of going to be my question for the next one, because you would have had those numbers in, both numbers in the 8.4.
Okay, thank you for the question. Mike, please.
Sorry, the 8.4 where we're currently at with respect to the current surplus for Q3. And yeah, so that was a status shot where we are right now in terms of where the timing of capital expenditures, reserve transfers, the actual operating expenditures. So that was just a snapshot as at Q3. And this would just be looking at the projects that are still in progress that we have to push forward into the next budget cycle. So yes, it is kind of accounted for in the 8.4, but the 8.4 is not truly reflective of where we're going to end up. So that's where I make some adjustments and whatnot and anticipate where we're going to end up the year and what that surplus is going to be at that point. But yes, the 8.4 is just, that is where we are at this one snapshot point in time. So.
Okay, great. You're good to that, Councillor Klopp. Perfect. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments on this? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report titled Capital and Operating Projects Deferral to 2025, and the Council of the County of Huron approve the carryover for 2024 projects listed in the report to the 2025 budget. Councillor McClellan and Bazinet, all in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 3, that is the September 2024 year-to-date financial reporting. And again, Treasurer Blumhagen is here to respond to any questions on this. Any questions or comments of council? Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. And I appreciated the previous answer. I think it helped me understand how we arrive at 8.4, but it gets whittled down. And if I'm clear on that, part of that 8.4 is the 2-some million that we just earmarked now, or is it another line totally different when I'm trying to figure out my books?
Okay. Thanks for the question. Mike, please.
So in terms of what, so the 8.4 would be reflective of everything that has been spent to date. So money that came in and money that has been spent out. So it was just a snapshot at the end of September, kind of where we are in terms of our expenses. But that does not factor in these future carry forwards that are going to happen, because that money hasn't been spent at that time, or they're just with the timing of when we've raised the levy dollars and we're getting our payments from the lower tier. So it's just a snapshot at that one particular point in time. But for the end of the year, these projects will be rolled into the following year. And some of those projects were funded from levy, some of those projects were funded from reserves, and some of the projects had provincial funding tied to them. So it's just that initial September 30th is just where we are at that one point in time, not accounting for anything that has happened to the end of the year and what we're pushing forward. So when I'm looking at so based on that initial 8.4 million in terms of that surplus, then I have to turn that around and say, okay, what's going to happen between now and the end of the year? What are the expected expenditures? What are some adjustments that we're going to have to account for, say, our union negotiations? What interest adjustments are we going to make to allocate interest to the reserves? And account for some of the reserve transfers and whatnot, and then look at, okay, who's over budget in certain areas, but then also where we might have missed something in our budget. I alluded to in my report there that we had under budget, we had understated the transfer from reserves for the Sanders Street project. So then that was taken into account. So that wouldn't have been in the 8.4, but I had to take that into account in terms of, as we're wrapping this project up, what are the implications on the final levy numbers? So at the end of the day, just in terms of what I'm predicting or estimating for that unallocated surplus that we can actually roll into 2025, it's going to range from 1.6 to about $2 million. That's what I'm estimating at the end of the day. What we'll have is a true unallocated surplus for our budget cycle for next year. So those are just some of the adjustments that I would make from that initial snapshot, knowing what's kind of coming down the pipe for through to the end of the year. So I don't know if that helps or.
Thanks for that fulsome response. Good to that, Councillor Klopp. Follow up.
Yeah, that helps. I have another question.
Please.
As it says on one line, we're receiving some pressures in the planning budget. And of course, that does cost anyway. What is the reason for the pressures there? I don't know if you answered or planning.
Okay, thank you very much.
You, sir.
Yeah, through the warden. So that is essentially just a reduction in permit applications. So we're just seeing a reduction in revenue. The staffing side, we're in line in terms of our expenditure side, we're in line. It's just if you look at the detailed financial report for planning, you just see the revenue numbers down on the planning revenue. So.
Okay, thank you. You're good with that?
Thank you. Just a final wrap up, sir, if I may.
Please.
Appreciate that. We in Blue Water have seen almost a 50% drop in applications. So I hope we're the only place in Huron County having that problem, but I can see how that ripples up to this. Clearly, as we do budgets in the next while, we need to, I think about this and how we can keep costs and be as efficient as possible. I appreciate your report, how you do it. And next time I'll try to call you beforehand. But I think this is a better way of doing this before we get into budgets, even if I don't understand it totally like my colleagues do, but I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Do we have any additional questions or comments of Mike on this topic? And seeing none, I will entertain a mover and a seconder that we receive this report titled September 2024 Year-to-Date Financial Reporting for Information Purposes. Jay Dietrich and Councillor Harding. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. I thank you for that, and thanks very much, Mike. On to number 4, the updates and amendments to the procedural bylaw. Clerk Cronin is very capable of responding to any questions the council may have on this presentation, and I will go to Past Warden again first, please.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is on 16.3, and under recordings, item B, and probably people can't get there quick enough, but I'll just read it. Recordings on the internet are part of the public realm, and as such are subject to alteration by a member of the public with no municipal control over such alterations. That's not all right with me. I am very concerned about that in the fact that, the world's moving toward artificial intelligence that can take people's voices and make a change. This concerns me because I think there's a possibility of someone's political career being assassinated by a member of the public. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to our CAO or the clerk for comment on a response, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. There's not a lot we can do about it, quite frankly, Councillor Ginn. Council has a decision to make whether or not it's going to make recordings available online. If the decision of council is to put the recordings available online, at that point it's out of our control. But I'll turn it over to Clerk Cronin to see if she has any additional comments that she wants to make.
Thank you for that. Additional comments, Clerk Cronin?
I don't have any other than we have no control over that. People can lift it, people can do whatever. That was clearly stated when we chose to go down the path of having our recordings out there. That's the part of being open, accountable government. Everyone can see it, but everyone can also take it. And I understand your concerns. I agree with your concerns. There's nothing that we can do for that.
Okay, thank you for that. You're pretty good to accept that, right?
No, I'm just wondering, and I don't do social media, but is there not a more secure site that we could post our meetings on than YouTube? That's my concern, and I apologize if I didn't pick up on that when we approved going to YouTube, but I was not aware of that, so I just wanted to raise that concern with.
Thank you. Do you have a response to that, Clerk Cronin, please?
Thank you, Warden, through you. Anyone could pick anything they choose to, even if live streaming, someone could record something and change it and shift it. It's not that difficult. I, who have zero skills in that area, could probably do it as well. There isn't any secure site available that can do that. It just isn't available. That's the world we live in, unfortunately. And it's awful, but.
So your comment, that's the world we live in. Councillor Finch and then Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you. Through the warden, this is the world we live in. That's exactly right. Times have changed and we have no control over what AI can do, what people can do. do we keep a raw file on file, or is it just on YouTube? And the YouTube itself, there's controls over that. But if someone takes a YouTube file and pulls it and alters it, and I'm sure Jason can talk to this more than anyone else, he's probably the best expert in the room in the county for that matter. We have no control over that. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're walking down the street and somebody takes a picture of you, they can alter it and do whatever they want. But I think what we need to remember is that we need to be transparent to the public. If some person with a nefarious attitude wants to change it, that's on them. But we have to always be transparent and open at all times, because there's people watching right now, and there will be people watching in a week from now. So the likelihood of somebody doing it for every meeting, or even a meeting in a year, I think would be very slim. I would suggest that other videos that are out there right now of a higher government level, they're being manipulated to create fun and ridicule certain members of that government agency. But for us, we have to always remember our role is to be transparent, and this is just the world we live in. I don't know if Jason has any comment about it at all, but he's our go-to expert on IT. No, that's fine. No, I appreciate that. But thank you very much. That's my comment.
Oh, thanks for your comment. Past Warden McClellan and then Councillor Besnett.
I appreciate the concern that Past Warden Ginn has raised, but the simple matter is the county put a stream out, and so that stream is always available. So the original copy to show what actually happened will always be available. It can be searched and it can be viewed. The nice part about it is when someone does make a change to it and post their own, it does come from a different stream, so it's got a different name on it. So yes, somebody could try and do damage, but hopefully anybody that cares enough about what's going on would do the due diligence to make sure that they find the original information to know what's actually out there. That's all I got to offer.
Okay, thank you for that, Clerk. You're good?
It's important to note that the official record of a meeting are the minutes. It is not the video. And the videos and the recordings will have a retention. They won't be, well, they will not be on YouTube forever. They have a retention of 4 years.
I know. Councillor Besnett, please.
I'm glad Clerk Cronin just said that. Is there an opportunity to look at different avenues in regards to live streaming compared to YouTube? For example, the town of Goderich live streams, and I'm sure other councils live stream now as well. And ours are, I would have to find out for sure, but you can go back several years and watch a meeting on our website. And I'm just curious as to, due to the concerns, and I would agree with those concerns, I think it's advantageous to look into it and see what other providers and what they would provide to us. And I would recommend a staff report come back to council. So I would make that a motion, please. Sure.
Yeah, thanks very much. You know, I think to a certain extent, the horse is out of the barn. However, more than happy to take a look at other options in terms of potential platforms that we might consider. Fundamentally, I know that there have been some municipalities that have not wanted to go in the direction of having their meetings online. They are now changing their decision on that because of pushback from the community about the fact that they haven't gone in that direction. I think that we have to trust that staff have done everything that we can to a certain extent in making this as safe as possible, and look out for the best interests of County Council, but at a certain extent, this is the land that we live in. Again, we can bring back a further report, but, you know, ultimately, we are where we are.
Yes, staff explore all of the best options as to how to do this. And Clerk Cronin speaks so often about being open and transparent to our public, and that's what they deserve. Do you still want a staff report, or what is your sentiment on that, Councillor Besnett?
You know, I hate creating extra work for staff. I will say that, but I think due to the legitimate concerns, I think it's a good option just to go with to provide to County Council and see what other providers do provide. And I do agree, it is the world that we live in, unfortunately, but I would still be prepared to make that a motion, please.
Okay, motion for staff report, seconded by Councillor Ginn, and then a comment, please.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's an opportunity to post in-house, but our county sites are pretty secure, I think. I don't know if it's a possibility or not, but if it is a possibility, we could control who manipulates our recordings, I think, but I'm no expert on this, so I would include that in the report from staff.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, and then from what I know about social media and technology, et cetera, once a video is out there and you've taken it and you've recorded it yourself, you can alter it regardless if it's YouTube platform or anything else because you've got it. So it's like taking a JPEG and changing to something else, whatever. You can alter it as soon as it's been released. And I think that's the whole point. Once we become open and transparent, which we are, we have limitations to any control. So to ask for a staff report, I respect the members that request it, but at the end of the day, the video is out there. Somebody takes their camera and just videos it. They've altered it. As soon as they want to alter it, they can change it at that time. So I don't see the benefit of a report, quite honestly.
Yes, and I thank you for those comments that I concur with, and I feel that our staff have researched this and will continue to use due diligence to protect the corporation of the county of Huron and all of us. Councillor Klopp, additional question or comment, please?
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion, but hearing the staff said that they've looked, I can't support the motion to have them relook at it. Then I'd have to question why was it said in the first place they looked at it? And so I'll be respectfully not supporting the motion.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? We have a motion for staff report. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? And the motion fails. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on this topic? Respectful topic, and staff will continue to research this very diligently. Any additional questions or comments in this procedural bylaw? Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a quick question. Would there be any benefit to retaining those meeting recordings further than 4 years? I guess that's the only question I really have about that issue.
Thanks for the question. Clerk Cronin, please.
So I actually went out to a clerk's group to ask what their retention schedules were, because this is one that is fairly new and not a lot of people have this, and a lot of places have not set retentions on these. The important part is the official record is the minutes. So these are not official records. These are just things that people want to watch and make it open and accountable. And 4 years, I mean, they take up a lot of space, not in YouTube first, because that's why we put them there. But I don't feel it's necessary for longer than 4. But if there's something that would be different, if council wishes them to be 5 or more, whatever, we can certainly look into that. I did research it, and most people don't even have a retention on them.
Thank you for the question and comment. And I think our staff, again, are very diligent in this. Any additional questions or comments on this procedural recommendation? And I will entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report by Clerk Cronin titled Updates/Amendments to the Procedural Bylaws presented for information, approve the proposed updates to the procedural bylaw and that it would be amended for consideration on the December 4th meeting. Councillor Noel moves, seconded by Councillor Finch. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Under number 5, Asset Management Plan Update. Mike Blumhagen, would you care to present to us on this proposed level of service, please, Mike?
Thank you, Warden. So today, I'm just looking for a little bit of discussion or looking for some direction, I guess, is kind of what I'm looking for. Just for staff in terms of how we're going to proceed with this next stage of the asset management regulation. So for next July 1st, we have to include proposed levels of service into our asset management plans. So if you recall, the last round of our plans included all of our assets at current levels of service and the costing and life cycle strategies that were part of that. The next phase of the legislation is, okay, where are we at today, which we have, but where do we want to be as a council into the future with respect to the service levels of our assets? And that's really the direction or discussion that we'd like to have with council, because we as staff, obviously, it's difficult for us to set that direction because proposed levels of service could mean a number of different things. It could mean an enhancement in service. It could mean a decrease in service, or it could just mean status quo. And as part of our commitment, we had as part of our asset management policy, we looked at, okay, well, we would like to engage public in some capacity at some point through this process. So through this proposed levels of service, what would public engagement look like for County Council? Would it be just dealing with council and you're the voice of the public, or could it be surveys or open houses or different things like that? So these are the types of questions that I'd like to have a facilitated discussion with yourselves on. And that's where just in the report, I'm like, well, maybe we can leverage the finance committee as a smaller group of council just to start the discussion in terms of maybe setting some of that direction in order to bring a recommendation back to council. But that's where, yeah, really just today is, would it be feasible to leverage the finance committee to have this discussion, or does council have some other ideas in terms of what they might like to see with the proposed levels of service? And just some examples of, say, service enhancements. It could be, bike lanes in certain areas of the county. It could be paved shoulders. It could be additional roundabouts, traffic safety measures, and some of the things that we've talked about piecemeal, occasionally here at the council table, but not having that wholesome, strategy tied into some of these items. But this would be that opportunity to look at that. So I guess I would just open it up for some direction. Does council feel like finance committee is the appropriate avenue, or what would council like to see from staff with respect to this upcoming legislation? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And actually the finance committee that's the purpose, is to delve into this. Council will make the decision. It will come back to council for that. Questions or comments? And I'll go first to Councillor Klopp, please.
Yeah, I thought I heard comments about the process is what you're asking for here, I gather, and mentioned about going out for the public. I guess we're the public here representing whoever's on council. As far as services go, you have examples here of the road department, and maybe I was a little naive. I was thinking that would be one of the easier ones because there's road standards that the province sets, different levels. And I'd work on the assumption that that's what we pass. But as I'm reading on page 5 of 5, we're talking here about right now, the present process, if it's under 50, and then we talk about there's a number of bridges or roads or whatever. It's on 5 of 5 here in your sheet, and they're right now under 50. So what do you want to do? Well, I guess that rubber hits the road then. And so I think the process would be that we have a day of this would be a day and of all the council. And because, for example, you go out to the public, they're going to say, well, I want my road done, or I know some roads that I want done. And the one that's over by Paul Klopp's place, well, that doesn't need to be done. So that's why we should have use some standards that I thought are already in place. But once you start giving us real examples where the county has some that are under 50, if this is the case, wow, I think that needs to be decided. So that's a good thing about asset management. But as you're pointing out, there's a whole lot of other things here. So I just would assume that this would be something that the staff would say to council, welcome to this job. And we've got, set aside a day and all of council sit down and hear the whole story, and not have even 3 or 4 here at once, because as pointed out, the council has to make the decision. And there is only 15 now. Back in the day, there was 30. Yeah, having 7 or 8 might make some sense, but there is only 15 here, and it's going to affect everybody real fast, real quick. And so that should be, as I say, we just set aside a day or 2 or whatever it takes, hear what the staff bring forward, and then council yay or nays and get on with it.
Okay, thanks for your comment. I'm going to go next to Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I look at this process a little bit different than what Councillor Klopp was just mentioning. I certainly do agree that the Finance Committee has always been very effective, in my opinion. They only meet once or twice a year. And when that meeting gets set up, staff come prepared with a lot of information, and for a couple of hours, it is really good discussion to, is this a good direction going forward? Is this a recommendation to take back to county council? But at the end of the day, I'm sorry, we're not desperate enough right now to make changes. And that's what it comes down to. I've heard some good recommendations come from time to time about making different changes throughout the county, things that could have big impacts on our budgets. But unless someone's got a great idea that we haven't heard yet, you might as well accept the fact that the service levels you are providing at the moment are being accepted by the public. And until we feel desperate or pressure from the public that we need to make a big change, I don't see it happening. And I'm not trying to be rude, but the bottom line is that even if some of us think this is a good idea, somebody's always got a bleeding heart story of why we shouldn't. And then we end up voting just to stay the way we are, because staying the way we are is safe. And most people aren't willing to bite the bullet and take the flack if we're going to make a change. And in all honesty, the county is very well managed overall. I'm not saying that we haven't seen some big increases, and we certainly have. But I think Huron County has been extremely well managed. And the increases we've seen, I don't know of any other county or region that has been hit less than we have. And we've kept our numbers reasonable. So I don't know why you'd put staff through a whole bunch of work unless you really think you are going to change something, because I don't see it happening. We had a list. Is it Mr. McIntosh? Is that who we sat down with? We had a list from him. We are still working through the items that are on that list. And I don't know of any other magic spells other than what we've already come up with that we need to be working on at this point.
Thank you for your comment. CAO work, please.
Yeah, just through you to council, I fully anticipate we have an inaugural session of council coming up next week, and I fully anticipate that at that point, I'll take the opportunity to sit down with whoever the new warden is and have a conversation with them about checking in with council in terms of their priorities, and just making sure that the staff council alignment continues to be as strong as we have had in the past. And this is certainly something that I look forward to having that discussion with them about, and then subsequently bringing a report back to council in terms of what the recommendations are for having those discussions. And it would be, just as Pat McClellan indicated, it would be as follow-up to the work that we have done with Gord McIntosh already. So we would already be building on the conversations we have already had, but really checking in and making sure that we continue to stay on the path that council has requested of us.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Any additional questions or comments? If I see none, I will entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report titled Proposed Level of Service as presented for information, and that the Council of the County of Huron direct staff to work with the Finance Committee to bring back a future recommendation to County Council. A mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Bazinet, seconded by P. Heffer. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. I thank you very much, and thanks very much for that, Mike. We have a number of items of correspondence today. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull for discussion? And if I see none, I will entertain a mover and a seconder to accept the correspondence not specifically dealt with for information. And that is Councillor Anderson and Alvin McClellan. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Under new and unfinished business, if there's anything that a council member would like to present at a future meeting, please contact the CAO in advance of the meeting so it could be placed on a future agenda. Following on 15.1 is the notice of intent fees review. And Dave Pullen is with us today to respond to any questions the council may have on this report. Do we have any questions or comments for Dave? And if I see none, I'll entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report titled Notice of Intent Fees Review, and that the Council of the County of Huron approve not increasing the notice of intent fees at this time. And that is Jay Dietrich and Councillor Becker. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried, and thanks very much, Dave, for being here today. Does anyone have a notice of motion that they would like to bring forward at this time for a future meeting? Seeing none, we do have bylaws that are printed, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder to give the two bylaws in print, first, second, third, and final reading, be passed and signed by the warden and the clerk. Councillor Past Warden McClellan and Councillor Vanstone, all in favor of this motion? And that is carried. We do have a close to the public session today, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder that the Council of the County of Huron does now go into a close to the public session at 10:24 a.m. under Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss an item that relates to labor relations or employee negotiations, non-union 2025 budget. And that CAO work, Clerk Cronin, Director of Corporate Services and our Treasurer, Bloomhagen, Director of Human Resources, Laura Vanstone, and Manager of Human Resources, Jane Anderson, remain in attendance. A mover and a seconder for this. P. Heffer, seconded by Past Warden Ginn. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. We will recess until 10:30 to allow our clerk the opportunity to secure the meeting. And thank you to all members of the public for your attendance this morning and the media.
At this time, we will be moving into a close to the public session. For those that are joining us remotely, I will be sending you a request to join as a panelist. If you wish to stay till the end of the meeting, I ask that you accept that request. If not, I ask that you just disconnect. Thank you very much.
Good. Okay, with that, we're back. Now I will entertain a mover and a seconder to rise from our close to the public session at 10:47 a.m. Councillor Finch and Anderson, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. I thank you very much. Reporting out of the closed session, CAO work, please.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden. The purpose of going into close today was for Council to receive information on employee negotiations for non-union inclusion in the 2025 budget.
Thank you very much for that, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder that the Council of the County of Huron direct staff to proceed as per direction given in the closed to the public session of November 20th, 2024. Mover and a seconder, please. Past Warden McClellan and Councillor Harding, all in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you. I would like to note of the upcoming meetings, and of course, I would like to reiterate again this afternoon. I realize short notice, however, we have a great event with the ribbon cutting at Sanders Street at 2 p.m. today. It's not going to rain till 5, so we're good. The inaugural session is 1 week from today at 1 p.m. Note the time, 1 p.m. Inaugural session a week from today. Council Day 1 in December is the 4th. The Library Board meets on the 11th. The Council Day 2 is the 18th, and Day 1 in January on the 8th of January. I will now entertain a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory bylaw, please. P. Heffer and Councillor Finch, that the Corporation of the County of Huron confirms the proceedings of the meeting be introduced, given a first, second, and third reading, signed by the Warden and the Clerk, and the seal of the Corporation affixed thereto. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And finally, thank you very much again to all of Huron County Council for the privilege to be your warden. With that, I will entertain a mover and a seconder for adjournment, please. Councillor J. Heffer, seconded by Councillor Dietrich, that the Corporation of the County of Huron do now adjourn to meet again. We do now adjourn at 10:49 a.m. to meet again on the 27th of November at 1 p.m. or at the call of the Warden and the Clerk. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thanks very much to all.